today's episode is how to love yourself. And I did an episode called How to Actually Love Yourself and Raise Your Self-Worth, Self-Esteem. And I've done other episodes on self-love and self-worth because it is such an enormous topic. And I get this question all the time. And I also see people doing things that are really either a reflection of their low self-worth or doing things that are getting in the way of them loving themselves. So that's why I wanted to do another episode on this. So the way that I define self-love is self-acceptance, self-respect. It's actually feeling like your self-esteem is at a healthy level. And what I will say is that we all struggle with our value. To be human is to struggle with our sense of self-worth. And I think that that's because, or a main reason why is, well, there's a couple of things. One is our childhood and how we were raised. And sometimes we grow up in difficult environments in childhood where we didn't get our needs met and we weren't celebrated for who we are, and we were very much needed to be a certain way in order to get love. And I will get to that in a moment. But the other part is that there is just the inherent dualistic nature of being a human being, which is that we have a light side and we have a dark side. We have the side that is positive, and we have the side that is negative. And we would never understand the light without the dark, and we would never understand darkness without lightness. And so every human being has the capacity for being bad. Not everyone has the same capacity, but inside every wonderful person is the capacity to be mean and to be selfish. Even the most inherently kind person has a mean side to them. Even the kindest person you know and the most nurturing person you know has parts to them where it would actually behoove them to be a little selfish sometimes. If they're always putting people before them, that is, in many ways, that's a very celebrated thing. It's like you're putting everyone before you. And so therefore you're sacrificial, you're a martyr, how wonderful you are. But sometimes it's important to put ourselves first, right? So we all have parts to ourselves that we wish we didn't have. And there isn't a single human being, if they were really honest with themselves, that doesn't grapple with certain aspects of their personality that they don't particularly like, or they don't particularly think has strong character. So I say this because it's really important to understand that we have to all be mindful of the fact that having these parts to our personality that are not amazing is part of being human, and grappling with the parts of ourselves that are not that savory is part of being human. And the road to self-love is a lifelong road, but it's really ultimately learning how to accept all of you, even though there are parts of you that you feel a little bit or a lot ambivalent towards. It's like, can you hold yourself in high regard? Can you value who you are? Can you respect yourself enough, even though there are parts of you that you don't particularly love, or parts of you that, if you were honest, needs to improve? And so the biggest tragedy is to not see our value just because there are things that we struggle with. There are things that are maybe not the best part. We all make mistakes. But part of also self-love is trying to develop the better parts of ourselves. And I think that what we have to also understand is that everyone has different parts to ourselves. And in childhood, we are rewarded for certain things and maybe not rewarded for other things. And maybe some of the things that we weren't rewarded for are really important things, like maybe being really proper and being really good was part of the family values. And so then there is a more rebellious side to you or a louder side to you that you've suppressed in order to actually be enough. And so whenever we're suppressing a certain part of ourselves, look, we never want to suppress, we want to have self-control. We don't want to let our narcissistic tendencies take over to the point where we are hurting others and hurting ourselves. So we need a certain level of self-control, but that's different than having other parts to your personality that are actually, if you were to honor, would make you feel like you are living a more authentic life or living more authentically for yourself and being able to give more to the world. But you think, oh no, if I stand up for myself, then I'm being selfish. Like that's a very, very common belief system in people who have been taught like to be pleasers. It's like if you have a point of view or you stand up for yourself or if you get a little frustrated, then you're not good. And so you're living your life trying to be this perfect people pleaser. And really what that's only doing is making you not like yourself and really grapple with your worth and not be authentic and resent everyone. Right? So part of being whole and integrated is being able to say, this is exactly the parts of me. These are the traits that I don't particularly like. But I love myself anyway. Like I am aware of when they're coming out. Like whenever, like we all have some narcissistic traits and we start to feel them come up, then we can say, this is like not the best part of me. This is not my highest self at this moment. I'm going to course correct. Maybe I'm going to apologize. I'm going to take a step back. Or, you know what? This is a time for me to be a little selfish. This is a time for me to actually choose myself over choosing others. And so loving ourselves is really being able to understand the wars that we have with ourselves, these internal conflicts that we have with ourselves that are making it so that we feel incredibly stuck. And so obviously this means a little bit of like deeper work and trying to understand yourself, but really it starts with, is there a part of you that you don't really honor in yourself? Just because maybe you've dated some people who said you're too loud or too much. Like, are you too much? Are you just trying to repress that? Or you just haven't found the right person who really loves that part of you and you've been trying to contort yourself into not being too much for the wrong people? This episode is sponsored by Audible. I love Audible. I walk my dog a lot. I love to listen to books on Audible. And I just love it. Can't say enough things about it. I'm a huge fan. And this year, why not let Audible expand your life by listening? You can explore over 1 million audiobooks. Did you hear that? 1 million audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive Audible originals that'll inspire and motivate you. You tap into your well-being with advice, insight from leading professionals and experts on better health, relationships, career, finance, investing, and more. I don't know what to tell you. It's the only thing to really listen to. It's the best. So listening on Audible can help you reach the goals you set for yourself. And also reading is really important. Sometimes, in this busy world and we're in our cars and we're walking and technology, we can't stop reading. We can't stop getting in this information and reading fiction and nonfiction. And so Audible is just brilliant for that. So start listening today when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com/Jillian. So we have to really own our strengths and we have to really own our weaknesses and to ultimately be okay with it. Like, there are going to be things that you need to improve on. There are going to be certain character defects that you will need to improve on, just like I need to improve on. But can you hold yourself in high enough regard anyway? And I think that understanding that everyone has these things that they grapple with, I think knowing that you're not alone, knowing that I'm not alone, that everyone has these things, it's really important. But being the kind of person who learns from the mistakes, who is doing their best to feel more integrated, who's doing their best to love themselves in spite of the fact that there are certain things that they don't love about themselves, that's what it's all about. That's what leads to confidence. And that's huge. That's my introduction into self-love and self-acceptance for this particular episode. And I'm just going to go through some bullet points of things that are really important that I don't think get discussed enough. I've certainly discussed in other episodes about the importance of your inner voice and how you talk to yourself and your inner child. So these are all, again, really important things. I'm going to, for today, focus on some other aspects. The first one is, if you want to learn how to love yourself more, to accept yourself, despite your ambivalence towards certain parts of yourself, if you want to raise your self-esteem, if you want to have more confidence, then you have to do what it takes to stop neglecting yourself and to stop avoiding yourself. Now, that can be different for different people. For some people, neglecting themselves means not taking care of not treating their body like a temple. I mean, I really believe that treating your body like a temple is important, but do I sometimes not treat my body like a temple? Sure. Like, I love sugar and sometimes I'll eat too much and I know that that's not good for me, but I am aware that when I make certain decisions to treat my body well, that makes me feel better about myself. That gives me more confidence. For some people, neglecting themselves is being in relationships where they're not treated well, or they are so hyper-focused on the other person and healing the other person and fixing the other person and deriving their sense of self from the other person, that what they're doing is that they are abandoning themselves and their needs and their desires and their wants, and they're so incredibly sacrificial in relationships that may have nothing to do with the other person. It might not be that the other person is doing anything to ask that of you, but that is your pattern. That perpetuates low self-worth. And so, yes, it might mean talking to someone, it might mean speaking to a therapist, but might mean just listening to this episode is really trying to identify the ways that you neglect yourself. Sometimes the self-neglection is not following through on certain tasks, not following through on certain goals, not paying attention to one's own needs, relationally or otherwise. And we talk so much about avoidance in terms of attachment theory and avoidance in relationships. But what is not discussed nearly enough, in my opinion, is this idea of self-avoidance. And it's self-avoidance that chips away at our sense of self and self-confidence. Identifying and defining the ways in which where you are neglecting yourself, whether that's within the context of a relationship or not. Maybe it's just you're avoiding yourself or you're neglecting yourself by not cleaning up your apartment or your house or making your bed, right? The ways in which we go into procrastination. So this is really important. I have found that we, as human beings, like, our self-esteem and our self-confidence really goes up when we pay attention to the important things that we need to pay attention in ourselves, like our bodies, like our goals and our needs. And we start to slowly but surely replace certain habits of self-neglect and self-avoidance with other habits. And maybe that's working with someone to help you define what your goals are in life, or what your goals are in work, whatever your goals are, and then helping someone to achieve those goals. A really important thing when it comes to goal setting is not to set so many goals, just keep it really simple, maybe one thing at a time or two at a time, and then reverse engineer. So you go like, this is like, if you're at point A and here's point B, what's getting in the way of you getting from A to B? Oftentimes it's our self-neglect, it's avoidance, it's overwhelm, it's these things, right? That make it so that, and this is very human, right? So that we can't go to B. But if you were to reverse engineer, it's like, okay, if I'm at B, what did I do right before then? And then what did I do right before that? And maybe working with someone who can help you organize ways to achieve your goals. Because this is just human nature. We feel better about ourselves when we commit to something and when we follow through. A lot of this is not necessarily popular, but a big part of self-esteem is earning it. And we earn it by actually committing to things and following through on promises. This is huge, absolutely huge. It's about replacing habits that are getting in the way with better habits. And there's lots of books and resources out there to be able to do that. But commit to something. Commit to something that is going to take your life from here to here, and create goals around that, and figure out a way and get whatever help that you need to get from point A to point B. Because we need a sense of accomplishment. We need a sense of, hey, I didn't avoid myself here. There are certain things that I want, and instead of avoiding commitment, and this could be relationally or not, instead of avoiding myself and neglecting the things that are important for me to actually do, I'm actually going to commit to it.
This episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. It is genius. You have subscriptions that you are paying for that you are not aware of that is eating your wallet. And we all have it. And think about how many times you've been like, oh yeah, I want to watch this movie or watch this show. And then you sign up for something for the free trial and then you forget about it. And then you haven't used it in a year, but you're still giving it money. This is why Rocket Money is literally genius. So get alerts if bills increase in price. That's another amazing feature. And if there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget, Rocket Money will let you know. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/onlove today. That's rocketmoney.com/onlove. rocketmoney.com/onlove.
This sense of peace within ourselves comes from some level of progress in life. Some of the greatest pain that any one of us can experience is feeling stuck. You know, if you've ever felt stuck in life, like you're not, like you just don't know which way to go, like it's a horrible feeling. I've had so many people come to me suffering, and it's suffering because they feel stuck. And that is why progress, even if it's just a little bit of progress, it rejuvenates us. It makes us feel good about ourselves. And that's really important. It's like growing up as a child, there's certain milestones. It's like the child who learns that is potty trained. Or if you go to school by yourself for the first time, maybe that's taking public transportation. Like these milestones in a child's development is what helps the child gain a firmer sense, a greater sense of self and what they are actually capable of. This doesn't end. There's no end to this cycle. It's just that instead of like the potty training or, going to, on public transportation, it changes. Obviously, those milestones are different. And they're also, as we age, but they're also different individually. So if you want to love yourself more or raise your self-worth more, or like get a firmer sense of confidence, these are all the things that lead to healthier patterns in relationships and in life. Then there's certain milestones that you want to hit. There's certain things that you need to challenge yourself on. And again, if you feel really overwhelmed, enlisting someone's help, whether that's a professional or a friend who can help you kind of break it down and simplify it. But that is really the main thing, is breaking the cycle of self-neglect and self-avoidance and getting whatever help you need to do that. Number 2, be an advocate for your needs. Something that I have seen across the board with people who struggle with their self-esteem and self-worth, particularly I see this the most in relationships and in work relationships as well, and career stuff. You have to be an advocate for your needs. And being an advocate for your needs and your boundaries and all of that is communication. And literally saying very directly what it is that you want and you need. Like in a dating scenario, the faster and the quicker you are upfront about what it is that you need. And there's going to be all this conditioning and this fear that's lurking in the back of your head. Well, what if I scare them off? Or what if this doesn't work? Or what if I come across as too much? Ignore all of it, because truly the most attractive thing is someone who has the confidence to deliver and express their needs in a direct and honest way. And the people who are scared off by that, they'll leave, but the ones who actually really matter will stay. I've said this before, and it's really important. So you have to learn how to be an advocate for your needs. And that means you have to get clear about what it is that you need. Do you need more communication? Do you need more reassurance? Do you need more love? Do you need more growth? Like getting really clear first about that. And look, this is just, it all boils down to the relationship that you have with yourself and trying to figure out, like, what do I need and how directly and honestly can I ask for this from someone? Knowing full well that they may not know how to meet it, knowing full well that that might be overwhelming for them, but still I have to be able to initiate the conversation because I am someone whose needs matter and they are important to me. And I am open to having a conversation about it, but it's important. And I've done other episodes on how to meet your own needs, so I'm not going to go over that today, but do make sure you check those out. Being an advocate for your needs, but also get better at meeting others' needs. This is an element to self-love and self-esteem that we don't talk enough about, because there's so many people who are in the pattern of over-giving and over-nurturing while under-receiving. And so I hesitate to say, well, get better at meeting needs, because maybe that's all you do and you don't think about yourself. But not everyone operates like that. And part of being in a great relationship, regardless of the nature of that relationship, is knowing how to meet others' needs. And that actually builds our self-esteem, because when we get better at advocating for our needs and better at meeting other people's needs, which means having the needs conversation is so important. How can I better meet your needs? How can I be a better friend? How can I be a better partner? This actually raises our self-esteem, because it's not just about what we can get from another person. It's how we can just be better, higher functioning human beings in a relationship. And in order to be high functioning human beings in a relationship, we have to advocate for our needs and we have to be really good at meeting needs. This episode is sponsored by Miracle Made. Your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. This is just fact.
I mean, how many times have you woken up in the middle of the night because you were too hot? It's so important. And that's why I highly, highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. They are inspired by NASA and they use silver infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. It's brilliant. I'm really sensitive to temperature, and if it is not the right temperature, I have insomnia basically. Plus, this is really gross, but you got to know it. Traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat. Yup. And Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry. It's kind of amazing. Probably the most important thing is that it's high quality and comfortable, because I don't care how temperature regulating you are. If you're not comfortable, I'm not going to use your sheets, and that's what makes Miracle Made so brilliant. They're luxuriously comfortable, in fact, without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So upgrade your sleep this year. Go to trymiracle.com/Jillian to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo Jillian at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. So go to trymiracle.com/Jillian and use the code Jillian to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Jillian to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode.
This one's going to be sort of like a hard truth, a little difficult to hear, might be a little confronting, but this podcast is all about telling the truth. And this is something that I've had to confront in myself. And there is absolutely nothing that I teach here that I have not first confronted within myself. Because one of the firm principles that I have, as far as my coaching is concerned, is that I'm not going to ask someone to grow or to go deeper in something that I haven't been willing to confront in myself first. So oftentimes when we can get really down on ourselves, and we can get really focused on our physical flaws, for example, or any of our flaws. We can focus on our thighs or our waist, or we can focus on, my muscles are not big enough, or I'm not rich enough, or I'm not good looking enough. And we can get so obsessive about the things that make us imperfect. And when we get obsessive over the things that we don't have, and we get obsessive over our flaws, whatever those flaws are, wherever focus goes, energy goes. So we are going to not feel good about ourselves when we are hyper-focusing on our flaws. And I'm not talking about focusing on the ways in which we can improve. It's just focusing on all the things we don't like about ourselves. When we do that, we are essentially obsessing over ourselves. And the more that we obsess over ourselves, the more suffering we are going to experience. And we become self-obsessed. Part of healing is getting really real with ourselves about the role that we play in our own suffering. And the antidote is to actually focus on others. It's contributing to something greater than ourselves, whether that's volunteer work, whether that's helping out a friend, whether that's helping out an animal, whether that's helping out a cause, whatever that looks like. Anything that's going to get us, it could be work related, anything that's going to get us out of our heads, out of our rumination, out of our self-concern, which has the physiology of the head down, the shoulders rounded forward, and everything is inward. And when we're like this, we play a huge role in our own suffering, not to mention what that does when we are constantly in this kind of rounded forward physiology. We create jaw pain, neck pain, lower back pain, groin pain. We tighten our hamstrings. We don't breathe as deeply, so we are not feeling as energized. So we create this huge obstacle for ourselves, and we're doing it because we are so incredibly obsessed with our flaws. Now, of course, one could say that there's so many variables to this. There's the pressure from society to look a certain way and achieve a certain way, and all that is true, right? We can have enormous pressure on ourselves to be a certain way, and part of that is a result of sickness in society, right? But nonetheless, we still have to see how we are playing a role in our own suffering. And the fastest way to feel better about your life and about yourself is to not make everything about yourself when it comes to this, and to give back in some way. Again, it's not the pattern of over nurturing while under receiving. There's, my next point is all of it going to be about knowing how to fill your own cup. But this is important because if you have if the role that you're playing in your own suffering is the constant obsessing about what's missing and your flaws and this and that, and, getting all in your head about it. So if that's the role that you're playing in your suffering, the fastest thing that's going to help you is to get out of your head by helping something or someone else. We are built for connection, and we are really, truly built for helping others and helping other living things, And so I know if I'm going through like a particularly difficult time, I might say to myself, okay, how much am I how isolated am I? How much am I just like focusing on me? And then almost always it's like, okay, maybe that's not the only thing, but I am really obsessed with me at this moment, me not being good enough, me needing to do more, me, whatever it is. How can I break this pattern? And I always feel better when I make it about someone else and helping someone else. The path to self-love is not just about giving more to ourselves. Sometimes it's about giving less negative attention to ourselves, and we do that by helping others. And the next point that I will make is fill your own cup. If you are the person who is over nurtures and always spreading yourself thin and trying to make sure everyone else is okay, but you're not okay, this is a really common pattern with women. So even if you're not a woman, you are in relationship with women, whether it's a mom, a sister, a friend, or a partner. You have to know that this is such a big part of our conditioning. And it's important for you to know so you can have some compassion and so that you can be attuned to the person who you care about, who's female, who has this, who you may be seeing doing this, and just telling them, it's okay to give to yourself. And we cannot help others from a cup that's empty.
This episode is sponsored by Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. So stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. So if you're someone who needs to hire and you run a business, this is the company you need. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored job posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. So how fast is Indeed? In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. It's crazy. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/JOL. Just go to Indeed.com/JOL right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Indeed.com/JOL. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're burnt out, what is one kind thing that you can do for yourself every single day. One kind thing that is so incredibly important. Maybe the kind thing is exercising or helping others to get out of your head. Maybe it's taking a long walk. Maybe it's having a conversation with a friend. Maybe it's your favorite meal. Whatever it is, this is not nothing. This is everything. It is so incredibly important. How can we ask or expect others to treat us with kindness if we don't know how to treat ourselves with kindness? We all have a dualistic nature. We want to focus, like part of life is focusing on the things that we can improve on, while at the same time living with the fact that there are certain things, that traits that we have, that struggles that we have that might never get better. The most important thing is breaking the pattern of self-neglect and self-avoidance. But first you have to identify the ways in which you do that and what the context is of that. And then starting to figure out ways to replace your patterns, to replace habits of self-avoidance with habits of commitment. And maybe that's working with someone for goal setting. Maybe that's just enlisting someone's help. Maybe that's commitment inside of a relationship. Maybe that means being an advocate for your needs and not just focusing on someone else's needs to the detriment of your own. Number two, being an advocate for your needs. Really understanding that it is so important. Yes, we have to know how to meet our needs as well, but we are also relational beings. And if we don't share what it is that we need directly and honestly, then we are going to be resentful. And when we are resentful, we are not pleasant people to be in a relationship with, and we don't feel good on the inside. So forget all the conditioning. I know it's hard that you're not supposed to have needs because needs makes you needy. No, neediness is when you can't do anything for yourself and you're deriving all your sense of worth from the love of someone else. Neediness is when you don't know how to give to yourself at all and you're just expecting to feel good from someone else. Your happiness, your joy, feeling good, you don't know how to do that for yourself and you're only expecting that from someone else. But having needs so that you can function in a relationship, so that you know that what you need in order to be in a relationship, this is really, really important. And then also meeting needs, being good at meeting needs and getting your needs met, because that's what's really important. The lifespan of a relationship is really these negotiations that happen about how you can meet your needs better, each other's needs better. And so the better that you can be an advocate for yourself, the better that you can be good at meeting someone else's needs, the easier your relationships will be, all sorts of relationships, the better your relationships are. And regardless of what kind of relationship it is, the better you are going to feel about yourself, because the relationships really do define our lives in many ways, because we are relational animals. Stop focusing so much on yourself, or notice the ways, notice the role that you play in your own suffering. Notice the role that you play in your own suffering about how you feel about yourself. If you have a habit of over-focusing and ruminating about your flaws and what's wrong, then something in your life needs to grab your attention other than just you. And then you have to get out of your head by serving others, by giving to others. The last is you have to know how to fill your cup. Do one kind thing for yourself every single day. Notice whatever resistance you have to that. Your resistance is your conditioning. Your resistance could be your childhood. Your resistance can be what society taught you. Your resistance is your fear that you're not going to be enough for someone. But it is so incredibly important, because when we don't do that, we actually become the person who we don't want to be in a relationship with. So I hope that this episode helps. Again, there are so many different angles when it comes to self-esteem, self-acceptance, self-love. And I've covered a bunch on this podcast, and I wanted to add this. I want to hear your thoughts, because these are ones that can actually force you to be very self-reflective and to take responsibility. So please do not hesitate to reach out to hello@JillianOnLove.com. Tell me how this landed for you. give me your request. This podcast is built for you. And please do not hesitate to click share and to send this and to subscribe, because you never know whose life you could be changing just by clicking share. And I thank you for being here. Until next time.